Welcome to Stamped and Worn, where every passport stamp tells a story, every destination has a history, and every journey leaves a mark. Let's explore another legendary place. This is the story of a narrow strip of land that changed the world. A place where two oceans almost touch, where mountains, jungle, heat, ambition, disease, money, and human will all collided. This is Panama. And at the heart of it is one of the most important waterways ever built, the Panama Canal. To understand the canal, you have to first understand the land. Panama is not a large country. On a map, it looks like a thin bridge between North and South America. But that bridge holds a secret. On one side is the Atlantic, on the other side is the Pacific, and between them is a stretch of land so narrow that for centuries, explorers, kings, merchants, soldiers, and engineers looked at it and asked the same question. What if we could cut through it? What if ships did not have to sail thousands of miles around South America? What if the world could be made smaller? Before the canal, moving goods from one ocean to the other was slow, dangerous, and expensive. Ships traveling from the east coast of the United States to the west coast had to go all the way around Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America. That journey could be brutal. Storms, rough seas, delays, and death were part of the route. Panama offered a dream, a shortcut. But dreams this big always come with a price. Long before concrete locks, steel gates, and giant ships, this land belonged to people who understood the jungle better than any outsider ever could. Indigenous communities moved through these rivers, forests, and coastlines for generations. They knew the land was powerful. They knew it was not easily conquered. Then came the Spanish. In the early 1500s, Spanish explorers crossed the Isthmus of Panama and saw the Pacific Ocean. Suddenly, this narrow piece of land became one of the most valuable places in the empire. Gold and silver from the Americas moved through Panama on their way to Spain. Trails were carved through the jungle, forts were built, ports became busy. Panama became a crossroads of empire. But even then, people imagined something greater than a trail. They imagined a passage of water, a way to connect the Atlantic and Pacific without carrying treasure across dangerous land. For centuries, the idea remained almost impossible. The jungle was too thick, the mountains were too difficult, the rivers were unpredictable, and the diseases were deadly. But the dream never disappeared. By the 1800s, the world was changing. Steamships were crossing oceans, railroads were changing continents, global trade was moving faster than ever, and Panama's narrow waist became too tempting to ignore. The first major attempt came from France. The French had already achieved one of the greatest engineering victories in the world, the Suez Canal in Egypt. That canal connected the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea and transformed trade between Europe and Asia. After that success, France looked at Panama and believed it could do it again. The man most associated with that dream was Ferdinand de Lesseps, the same figure connected to the Suez Canal. To many people, he was a hero of modern progress. If he could help open Suez, surely he could help open Panama. But Panama was not Egypt. The Suez Canal crossed flat desert. Panama was jungle, mountain, river, rainfall, mud, and disease. The French began work in the 1880s with enormous confidence. Investors poured in money, workers arrived, machines were brought in. Newspapers celebrated the future, but the jungle did not care about confidence. Rain fell in sheets. Landslides swallowed progress. Equipment failed. Plans collapsed. And worst of all, disease spread through the workforce. Yellow fever and malaria killed thousands. At the time, many people still didn't fully understand how these diseases spread. Mosquitoes were not yet widely recognized as the enemy. Workers lived in dangerous conditions. Hospitals were overwhelmed. The dream became a graveyard. The French project became one of the greatest failures in engineering history. Money disappeared, reputations collapsed, families lost sons, husbands, fathers, and brothers. The canal was unfinished, and Panama was left scarred by the attempt. But even failure proved something important. It proved that the world wanted the canal badly enough to keep trying, because the idea was too powerful to abandon. A canal through Panama would not just change shipping, it would change military strategy, it would change business, it would change the balance of power. It would decide who could move faster, trade faster, respond faster, and influence the world more directly. By the early 1900s, the United States became determined to finish what France had started. But before the canal could be built, politics had to move first. At the time, Panama was part of Colombia. The United States wanted canal rights. Negotiations with Colombia became difficult. Then, in 1903, Panama declared independence. Soon after, the new Panamanian government signed an agreement granting the United States control over the canal zone. That moment remains one of the most complicated chapters in Panama's history. For some, it was the beginning of Panama's future as an independent nation. For others, it was a reminder that powerful countries often shape the destiny of smaller ones when money, geography, and strategy are involved. And that is what makes Panama so fascinating. It is not just a place where history happened. It is a place where history was negotiated, engineered, fought over, and carved into the earth. When American engineers arrived, they inherited a landscape full of unfinished work, abandoned equipment, disease, mud, and death. But they also arrived with new knowledge. They understood something the French had not fully controlled: the mosquito. Before the canal could be completed, Panama had to be made survivable. Doctors and sanitation workers attacked yellow fever and malaria with a seriousness that changed the project. Standing water was drained. Mosquito breeding areas were destroyed. Buildings were screened. Streets were cleaned. Health campaigns transformed the work zone. This was not glamorous work. It was not the image people think of when they imagine great engineering. But without sanitation, there would be no canal. Before the earth could be moved, the invisible enemy had to be controlled. And slowly, the death rate fell. The jungle was still dangerous. The work was still brutal. But now, the project had a chance. The United States changed the plan from a sea-level canal to a lock canal. Instead of cutting a flat waterway straight through the land, engineers would raise ships up and lower them down using massive locks. Ships would enter chambers, water would lift them, and they would travel across an artificial lake before descending toward the other ocean. It was an elegant solution to an impossible problem, but building it required moving mountains. Literally. Mountains were blasted apart with dynamite. Steam shovels clawed into the earth day after day. Trains hauled away millions of tons of rock and soil. At places like the Culebra Cut, workers battled relentless landslides that could erase weeks of progress overnight. It was a race against nature, and nature rarely surrendered without a fight. Yet every morning, thousands of men returned to work. They came from Panama, the Caribbean, Europe, the United States, and many other parts of the world. Different languages echoed across the construction sites, but they all shared one goal: to finish a project many believed could never be completed. The Panama Canal wasn't built by one nation alone. It was built by countless hands. Behind every shovel of dirt was a father trying to provide for his family. Behind every rail laid was someone chasing opportunity. Many would never live to see the canal completed, but their work would change the course of history. After years of determination, setbacks, innovation, and sacrifice, the impossible finally became reality. In August 1914, the Panama Canal officially opened. It was more than an engineering achievement. It was a turning point in human history. For the first time, ships could travel between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans without sailing around the southern tip of South America. Voyages that once took weeks longer became dramatically shorter. Fuel was saved, time was saved, money was saved. The world suddenly felt smaller. Imagine standing beside one of the canal's enormous locks today. A massive container ship, taller than many buildings, slowly glides into a concrete chamber with only a few feet to spare on either side. Powerful gates close behind it. Water quietly begins to rise. There are no giant pumps lifting the ship. Gravity does the work. Fresh water flows from higher elevations, gently raising vessels thousands of tons in weight until they reach the level of Gatun Lake. Then, on the other side of the isthmus, the process happens in reverse, lowering them toward the next ocean. It's remarkably simple in concept, yet breathtaking to witness. Every transit is a reminder that brilliant engineering doesn't always rely on complexity. Sometimes the greatest ideas are those that work with nature rather than against it. Today, thousands of ships pass through the Panama Canal every year, carrying everything from automobiles and coffee to electronics, grain, medical supplies, and clothing. Many of the products we use every day have likely traveled through this narrow passage. Without realizing it, people across the globe are connected to Panama. But the canal is only part of the country's story. Step away from the shipping lanes and you'll discover a nation filled with vibrant neighborhoods, tropical rainforests, indigenous cultures, colorful markets, and coastlines touched by both the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. In Panama City, gleaming skyscrapers stand only minutes from the beautifully restored streets of Casco Viejo, where colonial architecture, cafes, churches and plazas remind visitors that history is never far away. The contrast is striking. Glass towers reflect the future, cobblestone streets preserve the past, and somehow both feel completely at home together. Travel has a way of teaching us that places are never defined by a single landmark. The Panama Canal may have made the nation famous, but Panama is far more than a waterway. It's a country shaped by geography, resilience, diversity, and generations of people who understood that living at the crossroads of the world comes with both opportunity and responsibility. Standing here, watching ships silently pass from one ocean to another, it's easy to think about engineering. But after spending time in Panama, you begin thinking less about concrete and steel and more about people. The dreamers who imagined the impossible. The laborers who risked everything. The doctors who fought disease. The families who built lives here. The generations of Panamanians who continue to shape the country's future. History is often told through the names of presidents, generals, and famous engineers. Travel reminds us to look deeper, because history is also written by ordinary people whose names rarely appear in books, but whose work quietly changed the world. The Panama Canal is one of those stories. It isn't simply a shortcut between two oceans. It's a reminder of what humanity can accomplish when vision, determination, and perseverance come together. It also reminds us that every great achievement comes with sacrifice, and that understanding history means remembering both the triumphs and the costs. As the sun begins to set over the canal, another ship disappears toward the horizon. Its journey will continue across oceans. Ours continues through stories, because every destination has shaped the world in ways both obvious and unseen. And sometimes, the most extraordinary places aren't the ones with the tallest buildings or the biggest crowds. They're the places that quietly changed history forever. Thank you for joining me on another journey with Stamped and Worn, where every passport stamp tells a story, every destination has a history, and every journey leaves a mark. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and come along for the next adventure. In our next episode of Places That Changed History, we'll travel to the mountains of Ethiopia to discover the place where coffee changed the world. A story of legend, trade, culture, and a single bean that transformed mornings across the globe. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and never stop collecting stories.